Hi fellow hunters! Rapia here. This is my dual blades gearing guide. If you just want to see the builds, there's a link in the description, and skip this video. But please don't, I'll be sad. Please stay. Anyways, so to introduce the weapon, dual blades is really fast, and it hits a lot of times compared to other weapons. So usually it has very low motion value compared every hit compared to other like slower hitting weapons like greatsword. But it also applies a lot of elemental damage with so many hits. So this usually means that this weapons scale very well with elemental damage. But why? So here is the mathematics around why element is better for dual blades if we compare point by point. So here is the damage formula. Physical damage is equals to total attack, weapon attack, times sharpness, times modifiers like crit, times motion value percentage, times target physical hit zone value percentage. And then elemental damage is total element of the weapon divided by 10, times sharpness, times modifiers like crit element and demon boost mode, times element modifier and target elemental hit zone value. The total damage is the addition of these two, physical and elemental. So I will go into spreadsheets wherein we plug in the 10 raw and 100 element to the formula, and here are the results. As you can see, on every crit level, like 0% affinity, 50% affinity here, and 100% affinity, its element always gives more than 10 raw. Like 90% on 0, you know, it goes lower when you're higher in affinity, but you know, it so illustrates the point like that element is always better in terms of like 1 point per point. So from that said, is the most important thing to have in a pair of dual blades is to have element, so we can maximize the damage. So now they know that we need an element dual blades for every element. So these are the recommended dual blades for crafting if before farming Artians. So this will be the Wyvern Lovers, which are the Rat Twins dual blades. For the water ones are the Master Savers ones, which are the guild ones. For the under dual blades, it will be Fulgur Twins Guardiana, which is a Guardian Fulgur Ageneth. This kind of sucks, so immediately if you have Thunder dual blades, try to replace them. Thunder Artian dual blades. And then for ice, it will be Precipice Olukium, which are the Jindaha dual blades. Very strong, good ice element. And then Dragon is Inspired Yowain, Arc Build. So eventually, you want to farm rarity 8 weapons, as they outperform all the dual blades I've said before. So here are the Artian weapons. So here's an example I'll show here. See this? It looks really nice. High element and high raw. Like, that's really good, right? So how do we craft and reinforce the perfect Artian weapon? The recipe will be when crafting this Cresse will be 2 blades and a disc with attack infusions and all of the same element to maximize the attack and element on the dual blades. And then on reinforcement, the only rule is getting 1 sharpness reinforcement and not more than that. And affinity should be avoided but getting 1 is not too bad, as much attack and or element as you can get. Currently, attack beats element in the current apexes, but the damage difference between them is not that far off. And in the future title updates, if they ever release more monsters that are more elementally weak, then elemental would be better. So it's just really doesn't. It kind of matters for optimization, but for most people, I think people should just settle with like at least like mostly element and attack on their tilt cresses. So why no affinity infusions, you know? You might ask that. Currently, we don't have enough slots on our weapon to reach crit boost 5, which makes the threshold for 5% crit rate to 5 to beat 5 raw to be like 250. So we don't have enough slots for crit boost 5. Instead, we only have crit boost 3, and when accounting for food buffs and item buffs, it's kind of high. So the threshold is usually at 294 attack, which is 1 divided by 0.0034. Yeah. We cannot really reach that without BBM or other huge raw buffs like Heroics, which is risky, or Ambush, which is not really long enough for most hunters. And DBM can also reach up this threshold, but that threshold also moves because raw boost on the weapon also boosts the DBM additional raw attack. So like the threshold also moves. Basically, affinity kind of sucks for the weapon, but it's fine to get them on their armor and your weapon skills. So after that, so now we go into weapon skills. Of course, the decos in your weapons are very important. As said before, element adds a lot to our damage, so our number one priority will always be reaching elemental attack 3 using Blaze, Stream, Bolt, Frost, Dragon decos, you know, the elemental decos. And the second most important thing is sharpness fixing and management. So decos that improve skills like Razor Sharp, Handicraft, Protective Polish, Master's Touch are basically required, as 10% damage difference going down from blue to blue from white is like 10%, and that's kind of a huge damage decrease. And this like comfort level is definitely subjective to person, but I only prefer using Razor Sharp on an RT and DB when it has like 1 sharpness reinforcement. Otherwise, if it has like 0 sharpness reinforcements, I usually use Protective Polish right here. So yeah. And then lastly, for the last slot, usually generic damage kills like Critical Eye, Critical Boost, Critical Element, and Attack Boost. So they're kind of all low impact, but the strongest one in most cases is going to be Critical Boost, and then Critical Eye. And I think Critical Element might be useful in some cases to like be paired with Handicraft, because it's giving you a bit more damage while also giving you a little bit of comfort and sharpness. So yeah, this is what I recommend. This is what I'm running right now. So for armor skills, like I said before, element is the most valuable stat when compared to raw 1-to-1. So most important skill for most cases would be burst 5, which gives 18 raw and 120 element. Then challenger, then adrenaline, then Wex. I did some mathing to like compare on an average set how each skill at max levels will perform and how much damage it will add to our combos. And here are the spreadsheets. As you can see, burst 5 always wins out on any combo, even on the raw focus combos, like 6-fold combo here. So you can really see that element is better, and the burst skill is better than Wex, Challenger, and Adrenaline Rush. But the math is a bit complicated, so to explain. But feel free to ask in the comments. I can explain probably. Now it should be clear why burst 5 is a clear winner when it comes to maximizing first, then Challenger, then Adrenaline Rush, then Weakless Exploit. There's a bit of changes here and there since every level of skill is not equal. Like, for example, Burst and Adrenaline Rush are so front-loaded, so usually in most of our builds we will use Adrenaline Rush 1 because we always use like the perfect dodge. And then it is always recommended to max Wex if you're using Wex, or not, or maybe 2 levels is fine. And Challenger is almost equal in all distribution in all levels, so it's kind of a lot of math. So basically, burst 5 is always prioritized, and then maybe you put in some Challenger or Wax depending on. Always put an Adrenaline 1, Adrenaline Rush 1, Wax and Challenger is gonna like whatever, depending on what you want. So now let's go into the sets. So the most recommended set for me, in my opinion, is the 4-piece Gormagala outfit armor set. So this is the recommended armor set, as like the Gormagala set bonus gives you Frenzy when you're fighting monsters. And Frenzy, when it's cured, gives you additional 15% critical chance. And when you have antivirus decals, it also gives you 10% more critical chance. So you end up with 25% critical chance for using Gore 4-piece. And if you have the 4-piece, you also get additional raw. So like 10 raw when you're like in Frenzy, and then 15 more raw when you're in when you cure the Frenzy. And additionally, when you cure the Frenzy, it also activates Coalescence, which gives you a little bit of element. And you can like proc this multiple times. And then, of course, we also always put in Burst 5 here. And then lastly, we end up with the gloves being a free slot of like whatever you want. So I usually like using Wex with Gartfeld gloves. Wex 2 is a lot of slots and like item prolonger and everything. I really like it. And there's also an option of Dahad gloves, Jin Dahad gloves. Less slots, you got Agitator instead, which does a little bit more damage than Wex. And then you can also use Odogaran gloves, maybe, here. And then change the charm into like Adrenaline Rush, so you can get Adrenaline Rush 3. So yeah, Gore 4-piece is like a lot of like many options you can do with the last piece. So yeah, it's this like the most recommended slot in gear, because it has a evade window as well, 3, and a lot of slots to like play around with for comfort. And then next is the 2-piece Gore and 2-piece Arcfeld set. So from the set above, you sacrifice the 10 or X15 extra raw from the 4-piece Gore set, and access to Gore and Arcfed's 2-set bonus, which heals you a tiny bit from time to time. It's tiny healing, but it could help a little bit when you're using Corrupted Mantle. And also, yeah, it has a lot of like 1 slots, so you have a lot of like decals to play around with here. It's a pretty good set as well if you like the crits and you like using Master's Touch, you know. And then there's the next one, is this 2-piece Gore and 2-piece Guardian Ebony Adogaran. That's a lot of words. And sacrificing the same thing for the set above, so for more damage potential during Agitator. So if you can keep the monster enraged for longer periods, or like keep it constantly, or kill it on the first enrage, you can beat the Gormagala set above. But you also lose the Evasion Mantle and Invasion Window from the Gore 4-piece, and a lot of T1 decals too. So this is a pretty not as comfy build as the one on top, but it's also still pretty good, you know. And then the last one are the raw focus builds, which can be used for status as well. If you're using Lalabarina dual blades or Ajara Karn dual blades, I don't really recommend using status dual blades, but they have some usage. But these set there are like monsters like Arcfeld who have a pretty bad element weak zone, so we focus on on raw instead of element. So we try to favor more getting more raw instead of element here. And as you can see, we use burst 1 instead of burst 5 as usual, and we slot in more ambush or more agitator here. So yeah, it's gonna be more raw damage for Arcfeld, because of he is not that weak to elements. And that is it. That is all the sets that I am currently using in the endgame. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and maybe follow me on Twitch. Sometimes I will stream Monster Hunter and VTubing. I don't know. Bye bye.